These grants were allotted through the Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reduction Fund through the Biden administration. Now, Zeldin has accused that fund of mismanaging these funds and fraud. However, he's been put in his tracks this week.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by energy and environment reporter Callie Patteson. Callie, the sun is out in Washington, D.C., and now we have a new solar thing that's coming out in D.C. Talk a little bit about, you've written a story about this. Talk about what's going on.
Yeah, so just over 3 miles northeast of the White House, we have a 7.5 megawatt solar array. Now, it's on the same campus as Catholic University. They turned it online last summer, so they're coming up to their first year that they've had it operating and pumping in energy to the university as well as D.C. residents. It's been a really cool project to see what they've done with it. You know, Catholic has supported a few solar projects around the university, but this is considered a community array since DC residents are actually getting to pull the energy for themselves and get a discounted rate on their energy bills.
So there's been some new developments with liquefied natural gas. Talk a little bit about what has been a shift from the Biden administration to the Trump administration.
Absolutely. So this week we saw the Department of Energy, they gave official approval to Venture Global's LNG export terminal in Louisiana. It's right on the coast of the Gulf. And this has been a project that's been at the center of LNG discussions the last year. Now, last year we saw the Biden administration had put a pause on new export approval projects. They did ultimately approve one in August, but there's a lot of discussion towards the start of that pause around this specific terminal because they were seeking approval at the time. And so a lot of critics accuse the administration of putting that pause to avoid giving approval since there are so many emissions related to increased LNG exports. But, you know, a lot of supporters for this project and increased exports of LNG have said that it's really going to boost the U.S. economy, it's going to help boost energy security. Meanwhile, critics on the other side say that it is going to increase greenhouse gas emissions, given that LNG is primarily made up of methane and is a bit more potent than carbon.
And it kind of become a point of contention between the Biden administration and House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is from Louisiana.
Exactly. And so having this project in Louisiana specifically, you know, there's a lot of support in Congress on the Republican side. And so we're going to see it develop over the coming months. It's going to cost around $10 billion to build. And they're expecting that once it's up and running, they're going to be exporting up to 20 million tons of LNG every year.
So as DOGE has been working its way through the federal government, there's been a lot of talk of the status of various federal grants and federal grant making. Has the EPA been affected by this at all?
The EPA has, and primarily over around $20 billion worth of climate grants that EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has dubbed the gold bars. Now, just last week, Zeldin said that he was canceling these $20 billion worth of climate grants for climate organizations. These grants were allotted through the Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reduction Fund through the Biden administration. Now, Zeldin has accused that fund of mismanaging these funds and fraud. However, he's been put in his tracks this week. A judge temporarily paused the agency from withdrawing these funds completely. And so now what that means, the EPA can't have the funds and the climate organizations can't have the funds. Right now they're just sitting at Citibank, and we're going to see how that develops over the coming weeks. Currently there's a couple of those organizations that have sued the EPA, calling on them to release the funds since they were already allotted in the previous administration. And they have a deadline until Friday to file a preliminary injunction on that. And a judge has set a hearing for April 2nd to hear arguments on both sides. And so we'll find out in the next couple of weeks whether those funds are going back to the EPA or to the climate organizations themselves.
It's also Tariff Day.
It is. It's a busy day for the administration.
Very much so. Well, thank you, Callie.
Of course.
You can read Callie and subscribe to our Daily on Energy newsletter at washingtonexaminer.com.